It's Thursday, is the 23rd of June, and this is the Day 9 Daily, where we learn to be a better gamer. In fact, it's Day 9 Daily number 315, and today we get to look at some amazing Blink Stalker style formulated by none other than Huck himself. Who's Huck? Who is Huck? Huck is the biggest badass known to esports right now. Licking my lips in elation because this is actually a really cool strategy. Now, for any of you who did not know what has gone on in the recent weeks and what is forthcoming, allow me to briefly recap. I went away to DreamHack in Sweden, but I left early because I wanted to adjust to the time zone schedule. And when I did leave early, I uploaded a series of builds called the Steal This Build series, which focuses on taking a build and really breaking it down and focusing on it hard in terms of the details. And that's actually what we're going to do today, because the Steal This Build series was actually so successful and people really liked them. To review, the Steal This Build series has covered some of NMA's PvZ, some of Tyler's PvP. We even did other matchups as well, but that's great that I'm blanking out because it means that you can go explore them. Where at the brand new Day 9 TV website, day9.tv. Go there and go ooh, and drool. And in fact, if you're watching this stream on Justin TV right now, you should even go to day9.tv, go to the live broadcast page and watch it with the lights out. What does it mean? You'll find out when you go there. And it's actually a real option. I'm not being facetious. I'm not being a faceter. And then I went to DreamHack, which was ridiculously, stupidly epic. And similarly, if you missed any of the action, the games were uploaded to day9.tv. And then, in fact, we're doing a little follow-up right here, right now, on the Day 9 Daily, studying little Huck No Toad's builds. Yes, the good old Huck No Toad. In particular, his Blink Stalker PvZ, which we talked about. Now, I have to tragically admit, I am going out of town tomorrow. I will be gone until Wednesday. So that means, again, there's going to be a little bit of a daily shortage. But I'm in town the whole month of July! Yeah! Even the North American Star League that I'm casting on July 8th, 9th, and 10th is in Los Angeles, so I don't have to go anywhere. Yes! And a lot of people are always like, oh, Day 9, you must love traveling. Well, yeah, but I only see the venue I'm at. When I went to Sweden, I did not get to see the famous landmarks of Sweden, such as Finland. But I did get to see DreamHack, so, you know, I really am excited about the break to, you know, do the good old sitting at home and watching Netflix. So, you know what? I have more things I was going to say. Let me actually see. How are we doing on time? Oh, I've been talking for like 3 minutes. Brutal. We're going to jump into the thing. That's right. The thing. The daily. Today's daily. Let's go ahead and talk about a little bit of PvZ action. And in particular, let us learn about the general evolution of strategies in a game. That's good. This is the way that most games end up working strategy-wise. And to do this, I'm going to reference the book Playing to Win that's at the top of my bookshelf. Let me actually get this book because I strongly recommend it as just a general read. It's by David Serlin. This is your reading list. This is your homework, right? I want you to read the book Playing to Win by David Serlin. It's a short little book. It is, I think, like maybe 100 and something pages long, 130 pages long. And it is great. It's written by a competitive fighting game player, David Serlin. You can find him at serlin.net, I think was his website a while ago. I don't know if it still is. But in this book, David Serlin describes the landscape of strategies as mountains. That when you start to try to learn a strategy, you start climbing and trundling up this mountain, and then you are constantly in your journey trying to reach the peak of this mountain. That is to play this strategy as optimally and as well as you can. But all of a sudden, you hit the top of the mountain. You have mastered this strategy, and you need to look around you and realize there are higher mountaintops. There are taller peaks. I might be playing this strategy as well as I can, but it might not be the best strategy that there is. And so it is off to your journey to begin a new climb up there. And so too this happens in StarCraft 2 in a very interesting evolution. What generally will end up happening is, I think many of you have heard my discussion that the gameplay begins with people doing blob logic. I'm going to make my blob of units, and I'm going to have it battle your blob of units, and whoever's blob wins is the winner of the game. And then it becomes more sophisticated and has all these counterattacks. And what we also see in terms of the strategies, completely ignoring this blob logic, is that a lot of builds have, I don't want to call it an all-in-ish nature, but kind of have terrible follow-ups. In Protoss vs. Zerg, what I'm going to use as an example is the 4 Warp Gate. Right? We started with a 4 Warp Gate. How does it work? Well, we get a lot of units fast, and then we go kill them. And if you don't kill them, you can have a follow-up, but it's generally bad. So then people started to do early expand styles, and what was a really popular style of early expand? Well, it was this: I'm going to get a lot of units really fast on 6 gates and try to kill them. And this worked for a while, but it started to not work, and that started to have some problems. And it's kind of funny because the instinct of every player, and this is a good instinct, by the way, is to do something faster. Oh, the Void Ray harassed is working. Yay, it's working, it's working. It's not working anymore. Maybe I need to get my Void Rays faster. And so you start to do this, but then after a while, your big 6 Warp Gate play is not working when you early expand. Your big fast Void Ray play isn't working when you early expand. And you just go, what do? I can't actually physically get any more stuff faster. And that's where this brilliant play that we're going to see Huck do comes in. And as I discuss this, we're going to discuss it in the 3 qualities of the usual Steal This Build videos. 1, we're going to discuss the guiding principles of this build, the overall thoughts and themes that go through it. 2, the opening, which is the specifics of what exactly the guy's doing. And 3, the deviations. We're going to look at 2 games today. But I also want to constantly bring in this idea of how do we combat this grody notion of, oh my god, we can't win by getting things faster. How do we play in this way? So with that intro out of the way, let's go ahead and begin the game. So we have Huck at the north position. This is his game 1 against Monsieur Laluche in the group play of DreamHack. Come on, Huck Cam. Yeah, alright. We're going to see him building probes. Very good. Probes are the linchpin of any good strategy. And of course, you'll notice, who puts his sound on? Who puts his sound on before he does the daily? Interestingly, not I. Interestingly not. That is fairly uncommon for me to do that. But anyway, so we're going to see Huck do an early expand. So, alright, we have our early expand coming up. This is great. He's going to be in the scouting, and per usual, we're just going to be building some probes back home. And interestingly, you'll see a lot of players not spend early energy on Chrono Boost. Now, I don't necessarily know if it was correct for Huck to wait as long as he did, but we're going to see some other things crop up. We're going to see him Chrono Boost his probies, and now he's going to be building a forge on 13, and he's doing the double scout. So right now what we're discussing is the opening parts. We haven't discussed any guiding principles, any big themes, any big ideas. We obviously haven't discussed any deviations. But we're noticing little things go on, like Huck is sending a probe to mine here. Because what if he gets his probe to here and finds a 6 pool? Well, my god, he better have a probe there, because if the late game is decided by tens of seconds, then the early game is decided by halves of seconds, so you really do need this probe up early. Upon getting here and finding no probes whatsoever, or excuse me, no Zerglings whatsoever, we're going to see Huck go back to building probes. And as we see, no Chrono Boost is being spent at all. Why is this? Because if we Chrono Boosted, we would hit max really, really fast. We don't want to build a pylon too much earlier because we want to have our Nexus up as quickly as we can. So that is one of the reasons why we're saving our Chrono Boost. It won't actually help us. We'll just be rushing really hard to a brick wall or flood. We'll hit it. Ow, I can't build any more probes. It was terrible. So now let's talk a little bit about deviation. So, aha! We're going to see Huck try to get his Nexus up. But no, he can't get it, so then he starts to build another probe, so that's fine. And then he's building a cannon a little earlier. All our probies are starting to make their way back. A drone does beat a probe one-on-one every time. So then there, yes, we finally build our Nexus. All is well and good in the world. And then we're also going to see Huck build a pylon. Now, in terms of ordering, you'll often hear me say things like, you should, if you can, get a gateway up before you begin building a cannon. This is generally true, especially it's true on a map like Shakura's Plateau. That is the map where it is most true to build your gateway earlier on. Here, though, I think it's quite reasonable for two reasons. One, we got our own Nexus blocked, and two, we're not seeing him begin to take a hatchery at all. So if we actually go to the unit map, we see, yeah, wow, look, there it is. You still want to be as aggressively as you can trying to take this Nexus early and trying to get your gateway up as fast as possible. But if he goes for a pool first, there's nothing that wrong with building a cannon first. If he is going for a gateway first opening, or excuse me, if he's going for a hatchery first opening, it would be very hard for him to be going gateway first, as he is Zerg. But if he is going hatchery first, you absolutely must build that gateway. Prompto. There's no reason not to be building it. So now I want to come a little bit to this long-term idea that I talked about before. Where before I said your instinct as a gamer, especially a competitive one, is to get things faster and faster and faster. How do I get that Void Ray earlier so I can block his third hatch more easily? How do I get my gateway units up in greater numbers faster and crush his face sooner so I can go get something to eat? But this, what we're going to see now, is suddenly a reversal. And in terms of the chipping to, oh, how do I get it earlier, how do I get it earlier, how do I get it earlier, if you're having this trouble, often what is correct is to do the exact opposite and go, how do I do things in a more economic long-term fashion? How do I abandon entirely all these early attack tactics and go back to something very long-term focused? An obvious example of this is where I'm going, oh, my one basing is not working, my one basing is not working. Well, you know what? Maybe I need to do some two-base strategies. Maybe I need to early expand. But after that big obvious hurdle, sometimes this can be a little bit more difficult to see. So as Huck begins to get himself established here, only as he's getting close to maxed on the energy again does he actually begin to chrono boost again. So that is some of the specifics of the opening part, right? When he begins doing those chrono boosts. But now I want to do a general what? A general guiding principle. Spend lots of your chrono boosts on probes. Do lots and lots of chrono boosting on those probes. Right now, Huck has lost his very, very early probe scout. And now he's going to begin making probes, and we're going to see him chrono boosting en masse. This is an interesting shift from a lot of early expand styles that will generally halt the probe the chrono boost on the probes about now, favoring saving all this energy up so that way we can begin spending it all on the cybernetics core. And again, I want you to think how that old statement makes sense. You're going to early expand, and you need to save all your energy for chrono boost. So that way, when you get your cybernetics core down, you can warp gate as fast as possible and attack them with a huge swell of warp gate units. And you better save both those nexuses energy to do that, because your cybernetics core is behind, your warp gate is behind, your early attacks aren't going to be so good. And again, that makes sense in terms of that chipping farther and farther and farther in. But now, oh my god, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to go heavy late game. This first game is going to be a little bit more of an intro, a little bit more of the ultra basic sparse aspects of the build. And then we're going to see just an absolutely beautiful way to play it off long term in his game against July that we'll look at next. How we see Huck build a cannon. Now, this is actually not a big deal cannon. I like to make big deals about things. I like to just go, oh my god, he's building a cannon. One cannon is one gateway's worth of cost. Ah! I like to freak out and scream and all that good jazz. But you know what? In this case, it ends up being okay. In the build a cannon instead of building a gateway argument I was using before, this was all the you need to get faster and faster and faster and faster sort of stuff going up, right? That's why it was such a big deal. If you got that cannon instead of a gateway, it would harm your 6-gate push. Here, not so much. Why? Because a guiding principle is not speed. It's not getting everything super ninja-ly fast. You are instead chrono boosting your probes most often. By the way, Huck is rallying his Nexus here to this patch. I'm going to basically ignore that for the time being. So we see a reasonable chrono boost, I would argue. We see trying to get the sentry out as fast as possible. We see a chrono boost going down on the warp gate, but again, a lot of chrono boost was spent on that probe. And here again, a Twilight Council. Before any other gateways, before any other Stargate tech. Well, it looks like we don't even have any pylons in the main. But we're going to be going for this as fast as possible. obviously using it to kill off the Overlord. And we're going to be continuing to build probes, build probes. The sentries, I want to note, in terms of this opening, are one of the most important components. You must get lots of sentries early on, as it is your only tool to defending Roach early all-ins and Baneling early all-ins. You must get this up as quickly as you can. Now, Lelouch, I don't believe actually spotted it. Yeah, he did not end up seeing it. Not a big deal. And again, we have a little bit of Chrono Boost saved up to begin. Yeah, building a lot of Chrono Boost on this Blink. So as we're seeing, Huck, interestingly, is getting his gateways after he begins getting Blink. And I want you to notice this timing of it. Here's the Blink and the +1 Forge going down at the same time. Also, very early 2 assimilators on this Nexus. Now, in terms of the usual ways you see people play early expand PvZs, I want you to again think about this chipping earlier logic. Earlier. What would you normally do when your Cybernetics core would go down? You'd get a Stargate really fast and harass them with Void Rays really fast. Or you'd Chrono Boost your Warp Gate really fast and get 6 Warp Gates worth of crazy stuff really fast. Or you'd get the Robo Bay up really early. This is what StarTale's Ace does a lot in the GSL. If you watch the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship replays, in almost all of his games, Ace got a Robo facility right when his Cyber Core finished for a very fast 2 Colossus push. Really fast. But the one option that people will always neglect to consider is getting 2 assimilators really fast. That is right, yes. I make a good point about assimilators and then nearly drown, being not very close to water at all. It's okay, a cup of water can kill a man. It's one of those statistics I made up on the spot, but that people will probably repeat to their children. Hey, be careful. It only takes 1 cup of water to drown, says my shirt. But yes, the 2 assimilator play. It seems like a not particularly good opening if you think in terms of this getting it sooner and sooner logic. And I do believe that getting stuff sooner and sooner is a great way to do a lot of pressure. But here, I want you to note how significant of a change this is. Getting these 2 assimilators up early, increasingly becoming a very popular strategy. In Huck's games on Shakura's Plateau, where he did a mass sentry early 3rd base expand. That's right, not early 2nd, but getting a 2nd early and then an early 3rd. Involved taking these 2 assimilators quickly. Important thing to note. So we're seeing how Chrono Boost his little heart out, but most importantly, he begins Blink and begins +1 at about the same time, and then is going to begin getting these gateways up. 2 sentries, most important part of the early defense. Absolutely essential. Is it a big deal that we got this cannon early? Not particularly. Will not slow down our Blink play. Will not slow down this very late gateway timing. This is ridiculously late. And in fact, because it's so late, not a big problem in terms of getting our early photon cannon. We kind of need that defense anyways. So we're seeing, okay, our Blink, interestingly, finishes at around the same time that our Warp Gates finish. So now we can begin getting these Stalkers up early. Part of me feels, you know what, maybe this is a little bit early on the Blink. Maybe we honestly could have waited a while for that, because it's not like, oh my god, I have 4 Stalkers, time to win with Blink harass. But at the same time, Blink is such a versatile early tool. If a Mutalisk Rush comes in, we're going to have our Blink up and ready. So perhaps I might spend 1 extra Chrono Boost on the Blink on probes instead. But I still want you to notice how small of a change that is. That's not like me saying, well, I'll build my 5 gateways first and then get my Blink build. Anytime you're copying a build, as we're doing here, anytime we're doing a steal this build style video, make certain that you are doing slight little adjustments to personalize it, right? Super ultra slight, because this build is good. This build is obviously very good. So notice also in production, see 2 probes getting built. Big theme of this build, constant probe production throughout. We're never going to hit a point where we're going, oh, that's it, I'm done with making probes. I've had enough. There's kind of probes trickling in all the time. We also see 2 more gateways getting built. And Huck is being very aggressive with his first 4 stalkers. So I want you to notice my comment. I said maybe we shouldn't get Blink this early. And I talked a little bit about maybe doing something like a Chrono Boost here instead of a Chrono Boost here. But at the same time, notice how in terms of this early aggression, we're getting a lot of information. If we waited longer, we wouldn't be able to get all the valuable scouting information that these Blink Stalkers are providing us. Again, this is one of these guiding principles of the build. Be aggressive early and aggress often. Because now we're getting information, aha, roaches. Is roach speed up or not? We can begin to make these judgments. As we can see, coming back to the main, roach speed is not done. But this allows us to be able to make these judgments. Like Huck is here and going, oh, no roach speed. He doesn't see the little lights that are generally on the back of roaches when they have that tunneling claw upgrade. So this allows Huck to make a lot of great judgments. And this is where the build suddenly is going to look very, very simple from here on out. Every good build will have a good early timing push, and this is the Blink Stalker's early scary timing push. Huck actually is not going to be building probes for this period of time. I said a big guiding aspect of this build was constant probe production, and I still stick by that because, as we're going to see in some deviations, it ends up being quite potent. But I want you to note how simple this is, basically, right? We get our Cybernetics core up, then we get Twilight Council, and then we get Blink +1, 5 gates, 2 gas, Stalker, 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 get some more gates, Stalker, 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 get a +2 upgrade, Stalker, 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 and hey, if we can afford a Nexus, let's go ahead and do that. But look at this very simple structure to a build. Getting Blink as fast as possible, breaking down his front door, bring in the noise for show. I want you to notice, we haven't seen probes get built in a while, but we have 50 probes up. 50 probes. And there we go back to making probes. Most builds that involve a lot of aggression stop building probes at around 38 to 42. So whether you know those numbers or not, that's not a big deal. What I instead want you to note is that this is a lot of probes. A guiding principle of this build, have a lot of probes. A guiding principle, build lots of stalkers and aggress. A guiding principle, do not worry about rushing to get things, just get them in a relatively decent order, and begin bringing some noise. Now, we see the Dark Shrine going down, and I want to note that this is a somewhat fundamental component, but I want to address that a little bit more in the second game that we're going to look at. The first one is to note how straightforward this early opening is in terms of bringing the noise. So great, just Blink Stalker micro your heart out. We're noticing not really any complex micro going on. Just building Stalkers. Chrono boosting his way to +3 very quickly. Nope, canceling that. Absolutely not what he wants to do. Oh, as it turns out, he wanted to build some DTs. Again, clearly we're not the key component to Huck's success in this game, but yeah, you know what? Those sentries that we did some early aggression with, interesting to note, those sentries only just now came into the battle. Those sentries were at home being defensive. We're not doing anything in terms of the aggression. And that is the last guiding principle I want to discuss in this game. So again, constant probes, getting Blink really fast, being comfortable with the sort of delay on the gateways, building freaking lots of probes, damn it, let me say it again, building lots of probes, and then these sentries, getting them very early on and making sure that they stay at home for that fundamental defense against any counterattacks, any sort of early all-ins. But here, yeah, cool. Bringing them in. The replay is like 2 seconds longer, but I will give you the satisfaction of watching Huck win this game, even if you did not get the chance to see it. You even see this third base is up and running, so pretty. And there's the GG. Cool. Bam. Casted that game live, was very impressed, was very excited. And, you know, it's kind of fun to watch a lot of different games of these players in a lot of different styles. You know, like you watch MMA at DreamHack, at MLG. You watch Huck at DreamHack, and you get the chance to realize, oh man, they have a lot of different cool stuff under their belt. However, after a while, you begin to notice, man, after he played 20 games, he was only doing 4 really different things. And in the other games, he was really, basically identically playing this off. But what's most exciting about realizing this is that these players do not have breadth as their focus. It's not that they do a lot of strategies. It's that they do a couple of strategies really well. And what we're going to see is Huck has a very sensibly thought out response to a lot of different things in this game against July. Now I want to come back here and just briefly note the time. Hey, good, we're doing great on time. Yeah. I'm just going to be able to take some questions. Doom, da-dum, dum, da-dum. So we see Huck spawning in the bottom right. It's Tal'Darim Altar. Now, there's all the usual stuff you want to worry about. Oh my gosh, is he 6-pooling me? Is he early expanding a lot? On this version of Tal'Darim, notice that there's no destructible rocks by your third base. It's just a third with some minerals and 1 geyser. We're going to see Huck move out. Once again, we see Huck's saving up of Chrono Boost. I now am starting to get a good sense of why Huck waits this long to Chrono Boost. He actually Chrono Boosts at an exact time, every time. If he Chrono Boosts too early, he can't get his forge down at 13. He loses money by sending this probe out so early. And if he didn't send his probe out that early, see, watch right now, he would not be able to build this forge on 13. See, now he can build it, and he's only halfway done. Watch the timing on this Nexus. And see there, right before this probe finishes, he's able to build, or right before this probe finishes, he's able to build another probe. If he Chrono Boosted too early and tried to be all efficient with his Chrono Boost, he would end up not having enough money on 13. You have to build that forge on 14. Why is this bad? Because again, in the early game, things are really decided by halves of seconds. If you are a few halves of second late on your cannon, you'll lose to a 6-pool. So that's how we saw Huck do that defense early on. And again, we see these probes moving out across the map. Second probe moving out right when the forge moves out. This is a very common scout pattern on 4-player maps. We can see the scout pattern on the mini-map. Notice, again, a second Chrono Boost going down. But he's not rushing for it. Being very calm. And now we're going to see a long savature of Chrono Boost. Probe going out quite early. Going to mine minerals. Aha. We see he's not here. And now we're going to see him here. Okay, now Huck's going to be checking. And there, he sees a late pool. Good. Now he can build this extra probe. I actually want to show that if we look at this Nexus... Alright, so I want you to watch the mini-map here. You're going to see this probe move into this main. And I want you to watch when this probe ends up getting constructed, because this can be very revealing. Actually, let's go ahead and go to the Huck cam, and let's slow it down. Let me remove my selection. We got it, but of course I was not having it in the right place. Okay. So there, Huck's checking with his probes. I want you to also direct your eyes down here pretty frequently. He's taking a probe, he's selecting it. And then what happens is Huck is going to get in here. See, he has that probe there. And then you see this? Sees guys mining gas. And then is like, alright, cool, let's make a probe. Boom. Mining gas. Likely not to be an ultra-fast pool. If it is an ultra-fast pool, you cancel this one probe and then build a gateway and a pylon in addition to your cannon. Exactly as Huck would defend against a 6-pool. But again, so I just gripe pretty hardcore on some ultra little stuff. The important thing to note, though, pretty clever Chrono Boost timing, now saving it, and now, again, trying to get his Nexus up as fast as possible. In his game against La Lush, we saw Huck get his Nexus up later, but he doesn't necessarily want to do that. Would really prefer to get this Nexus up soon, not building a probe. We actually saw a probe get started and canceled. Wants to get this cannon up as fast as possible. This is very common. Nexus on 17, cannon on 17, and often very common to see a gateway on 17 as well. But it looks like Huck might end up favoring a little more of the pylon early on. Now, I'm actually going to ask this question to the crowd, to all you wonderful viewers who are watching now on day9.tv. I'm going to ask the following question. Why would Huck build a pylon on 17 in this build rather than build a gateway on 17 in this build? given what I've said, especially about the guiding principles. Now, I want to, while people are putting in the answers of why a pylon before a gateway here, I want to note how extremely common it is to build a forge and then build a gateway and then build a cannon and then build a pylon, or to be able to build the forge, cannon, and then gateway and then pylon. And of course, everyone's saying the obvious thing, that this is great. Oh yeah, there's some other really good comments in here. A lot of people are saying, yeah, he wants to build probes up really fast, so he wants to get supply blocked. And a combination of this comment, let me see if I have it. I missed it. Darn, I always want to credit the user, haha. But one of the brilliant and beautiful individuals who's watching right now said that Huck knows he won't pressure early. It's those two things combined. Huck knows I'm not going to pressure early. The point of my build is not trying to get my cybernetics core up fast for a fast Stargate or a fast 6-gate or a fast Robo. It is to get stalkers pretty fast, but mainly to make probes early. I want to get a pylon first so I unsupply block myself so I can get that constant probe production. And it's fine to sack the gateway early on, and then that way I can end up trying to get really eventually stalkers. Really eventually stalkers. I should probably word that better. I don't need to get really fast blink stalkers. I just need to get them eventually. So it's that unison of two things. A lot of people will just say, well, he's supply blocked, and I don't want to be supply blocked. That's part of it. But there are a lot of solid Protoss builds that involve getting ultra fast gates, ultra fast Stargates, where it's correct to build the gateway before the pylon, because getting that 5-second edge on your Stargate production is so critical. We see that actually a lot out of OGSMC. Will accept supply blockage to get his tech up a little faster. But here, because this is an econ-focused build, it is absolutely reasonable to begin getting that pylon up earlier. But he doesn't. Interestingly, he does not. No, going for the gateway and going for the pylon. Now, I wanted to note, I cheated because I actually have seen this game. I actually casted this one. So I knew that he was building his gateway up earlier, but I still want to note the exact same thing that I said before of why guiding principles are so critically important in terms of a build order. It's not just, oh yeah, build a gateway and then build a pylon. Because as we saw in this game, it was a gateway first. As we saw in the last game, it was a pylon first. Why the big difference, Huck? Well, still, I want to note that Huck's probe production won't be really that interrupted in this game. He's not really feeling any early pressure because he got his Nexus up early. So again, that might maybe justify why he's getting his gateway up a little sooner. But still, I want to note how correct all of you were and how useful it is to say, oh yeah, guiding principle-wise, he is getting his, it's okay to get your pylon up first because a point of this build is to chrono boost my little heart out on workers. So what do we see happens in Huck's little vision range? He's going to lose his probe. How tragic. We're going to see not that much deviation occur in the early game. Haven't talked that much about deviation. The overall structure has been fairly similar. Both games. We're going to see quite a lot come up in this next game. And we're going to see another reason why I love this build order. Because it is a good, specific opening. Like, you can literally follow this by the book and be put into a good position. It has some pretty clear guiding principles to it. And you know me, I love my guiding principles. Gosh, I really wish it would stop saying our probe's under attack. I always love how there's like a nuclear explosion going on in the bottom left corner. Ugh, really wants to draw your focus. But another big reason I like this build is that it is flexible. You can do a lot of things from the follow-up. And notice, a lot of chrono boosting on probes. Not saving up a ton of chrono boost to do some sort of crazy, ultra-fast warp gate. Zerglings at my front. Get out of my front, Zerglings. Interestingly, second cannon going down. No big deal. The point of our build is not to get ultra-fast gateways or ultra-fast stargates, to get a lot of probes. Building a pylon in our base in this nice spotting location. We see, again, that little bit getting saved up so that we can chrono boost a sentry. We're building our warp gate, no chrono boost down on it yet. In terms of stealing this opening, we can steal it pretty accurately. Oh, look at that. Chrono boost on my probes. Interesting. Look at how low our money is despite the fact that we're literally only making probes. And aha, a second sentry. No chrono boost yet on my warp gate. putting this sentry at the point. Here's an ultra small bit of refinement you can do. Notice Huck's putting the sentry here. He's going to have reaction time to be able to shoot stuff coming across and then still pull it back and force field in time. If you don't do that, that's okay. That is A-O-frickin-K. Chrono Boost, look at the crazy amount of Chrono Boost going down on these Nexuses. That is crazy. And there's a pylon going down. Very early second assimilators. Now, again, you're starting to notice that there's some differences between this game and the last game. In last game, we built our second pylon before we built our first gateway. In the last game, we built our Twilight Council before we built our 2 assimilators. I want you to note that it's very easy to get confused by things like this. This is one of the big moments where people tend to overread and they will overstate things like, oh, maybe Huck saw this and not that, and maybe because he lost his probe at 1 minute and 30 seconds instead of 1 minute and 45 seconds. The most important thing to note is those principles of he's making a lot of probes, he's getting his second set of geysers at his expo pretty fast, and he's getting that blink pretty gosh darn fast. And I bet you in this game we also see blink get started at the same time as our +1 upgrade. These are the expected results from this. I actually happen to know that Twilight Council gets built on this pylon. But once again, a little bit we see the, interestingly, the rally point pops them out on the other side, over there. Probes getting ready to mine gas. And, you know, I kind of want you to note something. This is one of these weird moments in time where it might seem like Huck is not doing that much. I mean, he basically has a gateway. Actually, if we back up just 10 seconds, this is the part, this look of the base that can be really scary. We just have probes, 2 gases, and 2 sentries. There's 1 and 2. This is one of these moments where we can feel like we don't really have that much. And it can be kind of scary because our instinct, again, in our hearts is always to get stuff faster. Get my Stargate faster. Get more units faster. Have more stuff. But the big thing is this probe count. Look, rarely ever does a Protoss equal a Zerg in terms of probe count. But when we're chrono boosting 2 Nexuses worth of production, that can happen. Because I believe in magic. Alright, there's the Twilight Council. Great. So again, builds this Twilight Council first, and then starts adding on these gateways. There's not a lot of perfection going on right here. I haven't seen any sort of identicalness between games, but wow, yeah, Twilight Council first, followed up with gateways. And I bet you dollars to donuts, which, by the way, sounds really good right now. God, I want to go get a donut after this. I bet you we will end up seeing Blink and +1 started at similar times. And hey, look, sentries going down very early. No Zealot this time. We did get a Zealot last time. But again, I'm not going to overread. Hey, look, is that a Blink being chrono boosted? Yes, it is. We see the Nexuses were stopped on production early on. Oh, kind of hard to research +1 when you're killing your own forge. But no doubt Huck will rebuild that forge and begin his +1 production. Oh, how nifty-tastic. There's going to come some pretty essential moments coming up soon here that I want to note. The first one is that we're getting this really early Dark Shrine. I didn't talk as much about that in the previous game. A Dark Shrine is an excellent tool to allow us to apply pressure without actually having to commit that many resources. StarCraft 2 does not have any good space controlling units, which is what StarCraft 1 had a lot of. You know, it had a lot of, I'm going to put 4 lurkers here and 4 lurkers here, and then I'm totally defended. So I can do whatever I want with my units. I can attack and go crazy, and I'll be awesome. Not really the case in StarCraft 2. A lot of times you need your whole army at home to defend, because if his whole army shows up, you'll need everything to be able to stay alive. But Dark Templar allows you to wander around the map and harass and kill stuff in the same way that dropships for Terran, or excuse me, medevacs for Terran allow you to move around and do drops while having your main army together. Not really a lot of other good ways to do that. I mean, if your opponent expands to the other side of the map and you can see it, other than taking your whole army and killing it, how else do you deal with it? It's kind of rough. Warp prisms are a little difficult. Maybe Void Ray harass. That's another way that people deal with it. Generally, less of that stuff. So we see Huck doing some zealotage at this point in time. I'm not going to overread into that. The important thing is the structure of these buildings that we're going to end up seeing. And we're going to see Huck begin to do this string of pylons. Here's a guiding principle that Huck does in all of his games. Long strings of pylons leading to anywhere. You know, when Huck takes this as his third, he'll eventually take this as his fourth, and what does he do? He builds like a pylon here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and here. And then that way, no matter what, he can always warp in units from afar, or from nearby, or anywhere he wants, really. So again, hey, notice around when Blink's getting started, that's when we start to do our Chrono Boost on our 4Gs. Still making lots and lots of probes. Huck would ideally like to do some sort of early expand here. Here come his Blink Stalkers. And what did I say about the Blink Stalkers last game? Get Blink pretty fast and do aggression with him pretty fast. We're going to begin to see some big changes happen in Huck's play coming up soon. This second game, the contrast between the second game here and the first game is going to highlight the important parts of this build order. Still probes being made, important principle of this. Huck clearly gearing up to expand here. But this aggression that we're going to see Huck do is going to be quite revealing. So, because we got our assimilators up really fast, we can get a couple of earlier Dark Templar. And then this moment is going to come in. Now, I want you just to note, I'm not going to say that much about it now, but we're going to start to see these changes happen later on. In the first game, Huck was very aggressive fast with those Blink Stalkers. Not ultra fast, but pretty decently fast. And he saw roaches. And in this game, he's going to see Mutalisks. Just going to note that right now. So we see the Mutalisks beginning to make their way in. Obviously doing plenty of damage. So now we're going to see Huck in this awkward situation. And at this point, a lot of people assumed Huck was just dead in the water. But of course, these DTs will always allow you to apply just a little bit of pressure on your opponent. And the Blink, notice how that Blink has not actually been done for that long. And it's really going to be quite helpful. And suddenly, we really wanted to get this expansion up early on, and we just cannot. Let's begin with some obvious stuff. My opponent has Mutalisks. Oh my goodness, I better make an oodle load of the Blink Stalkers. Hooray! I am using logic. Good stuff going on by Huck, killing off a lot of stuff, moving in with more DTs, running away with a couple of DTs. Pulling guys off gas and mining a lot of minerals. And again, we're going to see a general shift of Chrono Boost back to all these little probers. More than happy to build a lot of cannons, because again, we're sort of a probe-focused person. We're not a unit-focused person. But a lot of units. And we're building a bunch of zealots, because we had an excess of gas. But here we see another interesting response. Remember in the last game, we saw a largely roach army go down? Not in this game. So, Huck is going to be getting +1 armor. Against the roach, Huck went for +2 attack, and then eventually +3 attack. In this game, no. We see the Mutalisk count, we see the Zergling count. Armor is going to be really good against those, because Mutalisks, their shot does 3 bounces, that goes 9, 3, 1 in terms of damage. So now it's going to go 8, 2, and then a fraction of 1. Nothing will ever do 0 damage in this game. So, yeah. Building a lot of probes, Chrono Boosting away on this upgrade. Still building lots of excess pylons and locations. That way we can't have a run-in, kill off our 1 pylon. July is forced to retreat. In a lot of games you'll see Huck. Let me actually pause this. If I go to the doom, I think it is under gameplay. In terms of the control groups, let's just make that unclickable. I want you to note that control group 1, which is unclickable because I'm an idiot. Yep, let's make it clickable. Notice his control group 1 is all his slow units, and his control group 2 is all his fast units, all his stalkers. Good stuff. Huck not going to abandon his old goal of trying to take this expansion up, but we're starting to see those little adjustments. And hey, in the other game we saw Huck get gateways 6 and 7 fast. Not in this game, he's going to be getting those Templar fast. Very fast Templar, wants the fast storm. Uh-oh. Very fast reaction timing, canceling that pylon. So good. We see him continuing to split up these stalkers. So I want to come back to the build order component because I don't want to just show off Huck's good control. That would be something that you need to practice. I can just instead tell you, have good control, and you'll be like, righto, day 9, it shall be something that I work on diligently. So Huck has not actually gotten the opportunity to be that aggressive. In the last game, he certainly did, and went crazy with aggression. And Huck now only slowly starting to move out. Notice that because the Mutalisk went up this way, we immediately know that this main is quite safe, so it's okay that our Stalkers have drifted away from it for a temporary period of time. Those will need to go back eventually. Huck's more than happy to make these cannons. This is something that many players do not do against Mutalisks. Feel very confident making a lot of cannons for defense. I mean, we're seeing Zerg just skyrocket past. I mean, if we just go to the... is it the R tab? No, what is it? Oh yeah, I should probably have had that thing up earlier. What is... Army Supply, Control A. Yeah, there we go. Well, maybe that's not as useful as before. Look, just look at this resource tab. Look, Zerg is ahead. This is this part where many Protosses start to say to themselves, uh-oh, am I really okay here? Am I falling behind? Yeah, look, there's his extra gateways coming up. We're starting to see the versatility of this setup, where he is able to respond to the fact that these Mutalisks are coming in simple ways. I'm going to get ground armor, I'm going to get Templar with Storm. And then the most convenient part, a part that is largely thanks to this very early pair of geysers that we got, we can morph DTs and move around the map to do damage while still sitting our asses at home. Aha, a hatchery. And Huck smartly just sits here and holds. And then we're going to see a very nice, straightforward defense. Good control on the Zealots, having them attack the appropriate thing. Nice Stormage. Building these 2 Archons ASAP. Having this 1 DT here, and this becomes one of the essential winning points of this game, is that single Dark Templar there. More engagements going on, continuing to warp things in all over the place. And we're just in a nice little offensive setup. And then Huck will eventually begin attacking that. Eventually. Stalker Archon is like stupidly powerful, because the Archons soak up so many hits and can kill the Zergling so quickly. Now, I want you to imagine if this was like a fully up and running and operational expansion after the fact, that wouldn't have been that terrible for July. He would have traded armies down a little bit. July wouldn't have been in the best position, but Huck would have been in a not, easy winning position. But now that he's going to be able to kill this hatch, I mean, really, Huck is going to be in a clearly dominant position. I want you to note that Huck really did not make that many... Or, excuse me, July did not really make that many big blunders early on. I'm just actually going to rewind here. And let's just look at July for this period of time. Right after the DT harass has been held off. And right as our Mutalisk harass is going to start to do a lot of wonders. There they are, moving in. Look at July. He's building drones. We see lots of drones getting built. How many drones is he at? Well, he's at 54. He's making some Hydralisk dens. He's going to be getting some upgrades for those in production. What do we see July building? Ooh, a lot of drones still. He's getting some Hydras, but he's not going to town. His money's low. Look at how low that money is in the unit station. Yeah, 71. That's about when Zerg generally wants to stop. And he sees this expansion going down. I mean, Protoss has just been building gateway units. So let me respond by getting a lot of Hydras. Now, how many of you have read in a forum or even posted in a forum, oh, Hydras just burn through gateway units, right? I know you said that. I know you have, right? So it's completely reasonable to say, hey, if I have forced him to make a ton of gateway units, nothing wrong with building a ton of gateway unit killers, the Hydralisk, and then going to freaking kill him with it. Well, the problem is just throwing in a dash of these High Templar are going to make that a lot harder. So I want you suddenly to realize, holy cow, this opening that Huck is doing gives you so many options. We rushed for Blink really fast. Well, I should just say we got Blink really fast. Not rush necessarily, because we're still 2-basing it, we're still chrono boosting probes, we're still focusing on our late game. And then we get our Blink as quickly as we can. And now all of a sudden, if Mutalisks are coming, we have our Stalkers there to defend. If he want Roaches, we can be really aggressive and try to kill him fast. If he's going like Ling Muta, then, we have our Blink, and we can begin getting this armor upgrade, and then we can begin getting this generally reasonably sized army. And hell, we can even get Templar to sort of cope with all this. And we can even get the DTs to put a little pressure on. Sounds like a lot of gas, but it's not a big deal, because we got our gas geysers so early on. And now, all of a sudden, Huck is seemingly impervious in terms of this defense. I mean, this is solid logic. I will make gateway killing units after I have forced him to make lots of gateway units. But we see July in this extremely awkward position where Huck is just a little too strong with these gateway units. He has these Archons that can now participate in the battle. He has APM that can participate in the battle. We see that armor upgrade about to wrap up, and this is the part that we just saw. I mean, July is not playing this out terribly. It's not like July makes some huge blunders. This would probably be labeled as a game-losing blunder for July Zerg. But it's very, very easy to make this mistake, and very, very easy for a Protoss to exploit a Zerg who isn't super all over the map at all points in time. Now we're seeing Huck make more gateways, adding on more gateways. Can eventually begin to get this extra assimilator up. And notice that Huck doesn't immediately try to attack, not trying to win this game super ultra quickly, is being very cautious to clear out more bases because... Why is this so smart? Now, this is just any game logic. There's a couple of key bits of logic that you really, really need to do all the time. If you kill off a base, do not attack him immediately. If you kill off a lot of workers, do not attack him immediately. Why is that? Well, if you just killed off all his workers, then that means his economy is going to be bad later, not right now. If you attack him right now, once you've killed off all his workers, then oh my gosh, you are going to be up against as big of an army as he can possibly have. But if he loses 1,000 minerals a minute from having a dead expansion, if you wait 3 minutes, you're going to have a 3,000 mineral less sized army. Similarly, if you kill off his army, what can your opponent not do? Attack you. So anytime you've killed off a huge army of your opponents, expand. Expand. I don't even care what race you play. If you kill off a huge army, expand. Expandado. Because if he has no units, he obviously cannot possibly put any pressure on your expansion. He can always throw up a miracle defense. People can almost always throw up miracle defenses in the now. Almost always. But they will never, ever be able to put pressure on these expansions after they've lost all their shit. So by the way, again, good guiding principle. Yeah, doing all that good stuff. Notice how Huck has still continued to build probes throughout all this. Good play. And again, that general principle, if he's making big Ling Muta, I'm going to be focusing on armor rather than attack. Zealot goes forward. Again, notice how quickly that thing just gets chewed apart. But the fact that Huck is making more bases and more Palazzo puts him in a good position. Constantly pulling these armies back. And now notice, slow units in Control Group 1, fast units in Control Group 2, Templar in Control Group 3. Always. This is a very easy way to control your armies. And if you watch Huck vs. Moon, one of the greatest games ever, which you should definitely watch the cast of in my archives at day9tv.blip.tv, you'll notice that always Huck has this setup, and this allows him to deal with crazy moments where Zerg is all over the place. Running up with those Templar, by the way, make certain that you're a little careful when you spam your build Archon buttons. Try to select Templar that are close together and hit C, so that way you don't end up having a healthy Templar merge with an unhealthy one. And blinking. Hey, these gateway armies are really strong late game if you have the combo of Blink plus Dark Templar plus Storm in addition to Archons. This game is where Huck's strategy comes full circle. We're seeing the benefit of getting this fast blink. Just by getting the fast blink, that Twilight Council is the gateway to +2 upgrades, to Dark Templar, to High Templar, to these essential components. And we're seeing that only now is Huck really going to begin storming forward and trying to actually kill his opponent. Huck was not trying to win earlier on. He was trying to do harassment with the Templar. He was trying to do defense with the Blink. He was trying to do defense with the Templar, all to get more expansions up. This is a late game focused play. This is not some easy, goofy cheese nard rush. Only once Huck gets some deciding advantages That is another principle I want you to incorporate into your play. Look at the specific orderings of the opening in terms of getting this Twilight Council before we get anything else, of chrono boosting our probes before we do anything else. But I want you to notice that this aggression that is happening is the first real big attack that Huck has done all game long, and he has been mainly content to focus on building probes. Look at this, still building probes. It's 74, still building them. And taking expansions. Probes and expansions are the huge linchpin in all these essential big high-techs. And then, as we see roaches, once again, Blink Stalker for the win. Blink Stalker, aggression. Don't forget about building a pylon here. That's a useful little trick to have more aggression at any angle. Huck's doing good. Doing good business. Getting shields up early. I don't exactly know why those shields are going up. I would assume it's due to Archon, but at the very least, get a second forge up to do that stuff. Funny, cool monkey business, don't you think? Let's go ahead and take some questions as a wrap up. Markio's Question Grabber, logging in as Day 9 TV to grab the questions. Start grabbing questions! So, to recap, the big idea that I wanted to note throughout this whole daily is that almost always your gut reaction is to get things earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier, and this is the birthplace of many phenomenal builds. However, if you're really stuck in a rut, if you've climbed to the top of that mountain and you see those higher mountains elsewhere, try climbing up the mountain that is, get everything later and just have more economy. Focus on the economic solution and the upgrade-focused solution and the waiting a little bit longer type of solution. But since this is a Steal This Build episode, let's go through the opening. We saw all the specifics of when we're building our simulators, and we're getting our blink early on, and then all our gateways, and things like getting blink and +1 at the same time. Good general stuff. You're going to have to rewatch the daily if you want ultra specifics. But the big guiding principles that I wanted to note, focusing on probe chrono boosting, focusing on getting our 2 simulators early on, using the Twilight Council as our ground starting point, our dock, that we use to jump ship and to go into the direction of maybe I want to get my armor upgrades and my Dark Templar fast. Maybe I want to just do mass Blink Stalkers because he's going roaches. Maybe I'm going to need Templar because he has those Mutalisks up. As I like to call it, the Twilight Council allows you to have a playground of strategies that you can fiddle around with to your intuition. And then, of course, another big guiding principle that we saw right at the very end, be very comfortable taking more expansions, putting pressure on with the DTs, rather than the big attacks. Make it a big late-game focused play. And, of course, the other guiding principles that I said. So, here is a good question by Kemzoar, who says, Day 9, what is your opinion on getting High Templar with Storm before Blink? Liquid Tyler has actually been experimenting around with this style. To varying success. I personally don't have anything that wrong with it, as it does end up with a huge timing push. It's not as fast as Huck's. It's actually even slower than that, but it's much more powerful. It's quite monstrously powerful because you have Blink Stalkers and you have Templar with Storm. And I think you might even have +2 up. The one thing I would worry about with that Templar Storm thing is that you can't quite get as much information up. Blink Stalkers allows you to poke forward and you have a little versatility with the defense. But like anything, it's a build that is focused on more of the probes, more of the getting more resources, and having big later attacks, and I'm all cool with that. I'm really interested in Protoss doing more experimentation like this. So here's a question by SC2 Darkness, who says, Dear Day 9, why didn't Huck research charge upgrade despite having zealots? You know, I don't actually have a good answer to that. I would assume it's the following. I'm going to be building mainly Blink Stalkers, Archons, and Templar with very few zealots. So I don't really need Storm. Or excuse me, I don't really need charge. It would probably be better just to spend it on an extra couple of Stalkers. Because it's like 4 Stalkers. Because I'll probably only be having 5 to 6 Zealots in my overall army. That said, I don't really know. It feels like it would be good if you can get a big army to be able to get charge lots to do harassment things with Warp Prisms later on. Perhaps that was a planned part of the build later. I've seen Huck do that in a lot of his other games. For instance, in his games against La Lush, got charge and was doing Warpins with Zealots and doing cool, good stuff. But, you know, I don't actually have a good answer for that, and that doesn't bother me as much Because, again, to note, you have a playground of strategies. Hell, maybe there's a point where you scout him doing strategy X and you realize, oh, time to get 9 gateways on 2 bases and go only Zealot with speed and High Templar. That is an absolute possibility. It is absolutely reasonable to be able to do this sort of huge flood of Speed Lot Archon or Speed Lot High Templar and put Zerg in a rough spot. Now that I've said that, I want to try it. Let's do more things. D-Stein64 says, Day 9, what if Zerg expanded crazily after the Muta harass? This is where it's important to have those Dark Templar up to be able to do a lot of poking around and aggression and all that good jazz. Let's go ahead and work on the following assumption that Zerg somehow had amazing defense against your DTs by having all the Overseers up. We're still noticing that Huck is focusing on having a gigantic ground army and then moving out and winning with this ultra late game force with lots of expansions. And hilariously, there's this crazy awesome game between Huck and I think it is Jun Wee that I did a daily on a while ago on Shakura's Plateau, where the Zerg has 6 bases when Huck has 2. But Huck goes Blink Stalker, Storm, and expands very slowly and can hold on for like 50 minutes. Look up Huck Jun Wee. Actually, let me see if I can search for it. Let me see if I can give you that daily number. But if you are ever in a really rough spot where Zerg is going crazy aggression and you can't seem to be able to defend against it, then, oh my god, it's so great to have a searchable archive. By the way, it's Day 9 daily number 230. And my description for the daily is how the hell? Seriously, how in the hell? Let's find out how. That's my description for that video. Again, is an amazing example of how to hold on so long. But yes, anytime you're up against a Zerg who's expanding like crazy and going nuts, it's a really, really good technique to focus on playing very passively but getting a stronger composition. Because he'll generally be doing a fast composition, a ninja composition like Mutiling, which is not so good late game. It's very good mid game for being aggressive and harassy and having just barely enough to hold on, but is not good at dealing with a direct army confrontation. And now with that, I will take one more question. By the way, can I say how sick it is? If you go to day9.tv and go to the video archives and just type in Huck, you will see that I have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 dailies on Huck, and this is the 10th. Oh, 11, 12. Whatever. I did a lot. Ha-ha! Ha-ha-ha! Excellent. Excellent. So Godplant says, Day 9, wouldn't Infestors counter this build? Wouldn't Infestor Lane counter this build? I don't necessarily know if that is, what do I think about that? Well, what do I think about that build? That's actually an interesting question. What about that? So the immediate things that comes to mind is that feedback is going to be pretty good. The middle aggression, I think, will absolutely struggle. You try to push with your Blink Stalkers and you'll see Infestors. But what's nice to note is that the Infestor is only really crushing your army right when the fungal growth has hit a huge pack. If you instantly see some Infestors, you can just be like, and just blink away, run home, and wait till you have Templar. And then again, if you're doing Huck's really clever placement where he's poaching forward with his Templar and he can do some amazing feedbacks, you can be in horrific shape. But again, I kind of want you to note how this comes back to this theme of our playground. When I sought to answer that question, actually, yeah, let me begin that from the beginning. The interesting aspect of how I'm going to answer this is not what my answer is. It's that I thought to myself, well, if he's going Infestor Ling, let me result to my playground of, I have my Twilight Council done. Is this going to work with Blink Stalkers? Is it Charge Zealots? Is it having crazy upgrades? Is it having Dark Templar out? Is it having Archons out? Is it having Storm out? I was able to use all these little options in my brain, as opposed to doing something like, well, I'm only making gateway units that are tier 1, so I guess I have either Zealots or Stalkers or Sentries to make. Which one do I make the most of? It's not me doing anything confined. I have freedom. I have this playground of strategies. And my answer would be play passively. Play passively, try to get the feedback up, and then probably, once again, go for this armor upgrade. Maybe even favor a little bit of the zealotage. Maybe even get a second forge up. That feels good in my heart, to get a second forge up, get plus attack and plus armor to really crush lings, because armor is good against lings because they do so many little bits of damage. It's helping you a ton. But then they also... if you have an attack advantage, you can kill Zerglings in 2 hits instead of 3. So you know what? I'm wrapping up the daily. You're probably asking, why is there no Fun Day Monday announced? Because I'm out of town on Monday. I come back on Wednesday. Until then, watch all the DreamHack games. In very exciting news, the subscriber thing, the voluntary subscription for $5 a month where you get fancy chat badges and you get to play Mono Battles with me, that now is available to PayPal. Yes, it wasn't available to PayPal before. A lot of you have been requesting it, so it is now available, and I'd like to thank you kindly for your voluntary donation. Once again, you do not have to donate, you do not have to subscribe, but if you do, I heart you, and you'll be supporting the show. Thank you. Also like to note, thank you for Team Dignitas for providing me this shirt. The Select shirt, the Sup Sun shirt, the Sup Sun shirt. Yes, it is the Sup Sun shirt. I'm out, guys. Go out and ladder and be like Huck and win yourself a dream hack. Rip your opponent's faces off. And I couldn't think of something that rhymes with hack. See you later, guys.